For years, a small town's cops acted untouchable. Complaints lost, probes buried before sunrise. Then they chose the wrong target, Malik Cross and his shop. They expected fear. They didn't know Malik was ex-Delta Force, built to expose rot. They thought a badge was armor. Malik knew better. He'd fought corruption where rules were rumors and power hid behind uniforms. This time, he wouldn't just push back. He'd drag the racket into daylight, snapping every link he could reach. Late afternoon light poured amber through the front windows of Cross Spirits and Fine Liquor. Malik, 41, leaned on the counter, watching regulars drift in before the rush. 10 years earlier, he'd lived in classified shadows. Now, he sold bottles and guarded his peace. The neighborhood had once been a web of porch lights and mutual care. Now developers circled like vultures, buying blocks through quiet deals. Malik wasn't built to fold. The soldier in him still lived, calm, alert, and stubbornly unmovable. Mrs. Wilkins shuffled up with peach brandy, smiling like family. "Evening, baby," she teased, pointing at the flickering light outside. Malik smirked, promising he'd fix it. Her look said she didn't believe him, but she let it go. The bell jingled again, and the AIR changed. Malik didn't need to turn to feel trouble. 2 uniforms filled the doorway, Sergeant Trent Bishop and Officer Logan Grady. They weren't here to browse. Their presence pressed the room into silence. Mrs. Wilkins patted Malik's arm. "You stay safe, you hear?" She squeezed past them. Neither man moved aside. It was small, petty domination, an unspoken warning. When the door shut behind her, Bishop's eyes settled on Malik like a claim. Grady wandered the shelves, fingers sliding over labels, lifting a whiskey like he owned the place. "Didn't expect real liquor," he muttered, letting a slur hang in the air. Malik's face stayed blank, but his mind logged everything. Bishop, 48, leaned on the counter, friendly as poison. "Just checking in," he said. "City's making changes. New rules, new expectation." Malik raised an eyebrow. Bishop's smile sharpened. "Keeping this area safe takes effort, and effort costs." Grady's gaze flicked to a black-owned sticker near the register. "Permits are getting strict," he said, scanning for imaginary dirt. "Health codes, inspections, things happen." The threat was wrapped in bureaucracy, meant to sound official and inevitable. Malik named it flatly. A protection tax. Bishop didn't deny it. "Call it cooperation," he replied. "A monthly fee keeps your license clean, your inspection smooth, and our response time immediate." The offer landed like a loaded gun. Malik's fingers tightened on the counter, then relaxed. "And if I don't?" Bishop exhaled as if disappointed. "Then you gamble," Grady chuckled. "We shut down a couple places recently. Paperwork issues. Neighborhoods get unpredictable." Malik stared a long beat, then clicked the register drawer shut. Final, deliberate. "I'll pass." Silence hit. "Hard!" Bishop's smirk faltered. Grady's jaw twitched. They'd expected surrender, not refusal, from a man who didn't flinch. Grady let the whiskey bottle slip from his hand. It shattered, liquor spreading across tile. Bishop adjusted his cuffs, stepping back like nothing happened. "You'll regret that, Cross," he said softly. "We'll be back." The bell jingled as they left. Malik watched dark liquid creep between grout lines. It wasn't vandalism, it was a promise. He finished closing after midnight, pulling the metal shutter down and locking it heavy. Something in his ribs felt wrong, not fear, but pressure. He drove home with instincts humming. the shop shrinking in the mirror. By dawn, the world had shifted. He returned to shattered glass on the sidewalk, gouges carved into the shutter like claws. The neon sign flickered, sickly against morning. Malik stood still, letting the scene settle. The street held a hush. Neighbors had seen, maybe paused, then kept walking. He breathed slow, then moved. The padlock was twisted, forced. He pushed inside, hinges groaning like a warning. The smell hit first. Spilled liquor, splintered wood, crushed cigars scattered like ash. The register yawned open, yet nothing was stolen. This wasn't robbery, it was theater. Destruction as language, meant to translate into submission. Near the back, beneath wreckage, Malik spotted a torn plastic bag dusted with white powder. He didn't step closer. He'd seen setups overseas, bait left where it could be found. His jaw tightened. They wanted him framed and folded. He kept working, sweeping glass, controlling his breathing. Soon they'd arrive, responding to a tip. They'd pretend surprise, then discover the bag like magic. Malik's fists clenched, then opened. Anger was fuel. Discipline was steering. A squad car rolled up, then another, then a third, blocking the street like a claim. People watched from windows and doorways, afraid to blink. Engines idled like growls. This wasn't a routine call. It was a staged execution in daylight. Bishop stepped out first, uniform crisp, calm as a sermon. Grady followed, bruise shadowing his jaw. Two more officers positioned themselves near the storefront, casual but ready. Malik set the broom down and waited, eyes steady, shoulders loose. Bishop surveyed the damage with practiced neutrality, then looked at Malik. "Busy morning," he said. Malik answered evenly. Bishop nodded, then dropped the hook. "We got an anonymous tip. Suspicious activity here. That sound familiar?" Malik didn't bite. Bishop tilted his head toward a stocky officer with a chin scar. "Denton, take a look inside." The man's hand hovered near his holster like he hoped for resistance. Malik asked, quiet and sharp, "You got a warrant?" Bishop smiled without warmth. "Why would we need one? You got nothing to hide, right?" Malik stepped aside because he understood the script. Consent didn't matter. Control did. They moved through the store like actors rehearsing a lie. Denton and another officer shoved bottles, rattled shelves, knocked things over, mess-dressed as procedure. It wasn't a search. It was intimidation with paperwork. Malik watched, memorizing faces and hands, noticing who avoided cameras and who didn't. "Well, well," Denton called from the back, voice thick with triumph. "Looks like we got a problem." Bishop raised an eyebrow and strolled in. Malik followed slowly, refusing to show fear, refusing to give them the satisfaction of flinching. Denton held up the small bag between two fingers, turning it so the powder caught the light. Bishop took it, rolling it like a coin. "A man like you," he sighed, "veteran business owner, why throw your life away?" Bishop slid the bag into his pocket as if it belonged there. "Option," he said. "We take you downtown. Possession with intent. Store shut. License gone. Your name dragged. Or evidence gets misplaced and life stays comfortable." Malik's stare didn't move. "And what's comfort? Cost." Bishop's smile was a thin blade. "An investment," he said. "Monthly. Keeps your doors open. Keeps nights like last night from happening again." The extortion returned. Now wearing handcuffs, Malik let the words hang, then shook his head once. Bishop's patience drained. Grady stepped closer, anger shaking behind his grin. "You think you're a hero," he spat. "Ain't nobody coming to save you." Malik's voice stayed level. "I don't pay for things that have no value." The room tightened. Bishop adjusted his cuffs, eyes cold. "Clear out," he told his men, but Malik saw it. This wasn't ending. Grady lingered like a match held near gasoline. In a flash, Grady grabbed a heavy bottle and swung for Malik's face. Malik ducked. Glass detonated on the counter, shards flying. Whiskey splashed his cheek. Bishop exhaled slowly, almost satisfied. "You shouldn't have done that," he warned. Grady charged again with fists. Malik slipped aside, letting a punch glance off his shoulder. He countered with a sharp elbow to Grady's ribs. Clean. Controlled. The younger cop stumbled, shocked that the store owner moved like a weapon. The others joined. Bishop's baton whipped through the air. Malik blocked the first strike on his forearm, pain blooming hot, but he stayed upright. Someone grabbed at his collar. Malik twisted, sending the man off balance without wasting motion. A fist sank into Malik's gut. He tasted metal and kept breathing. He drove his shoulder into Grady, slamming him into a shelf. Bottles crashed, liquor spilling. Malik pivoted, elbowing another officer's jaw, then ducked as the baton cut. "Highs!" Malik surged and caught Bishop's wrist, turning momentum against him. Bishop recovered, driving a knee into Malik's ribs and stealing his AIR. Grady, burning with humiliation, slammed Malik's face and sent him staggering into the counter. Boots and batons rained. Malik dropped to one knee, vision fuzzing at the edges. He let them believe he was breaking, just long enough. Then he exploded forward, yanking Denton down by the collar and crashing him into the floor. Malik drove a knee into another officer's stomach, folding him. Grady lunged to tackle. Malik sidestepped and threw him into the counter like dead weight. Malik's fist snapped across Grady's face, one clean strike, dropping him hard. Denton rushed again, baton raised. The blow landed on Malik's shoulder, numbing his arm. Pain screamed, but Malik stayed standing. Bishop wiped blood from his lip, eyes narrowing. "Still standing," he muttered, half impressed, half furious. Malik rolled his shoulders despite the fire in his ribs. "Takes more than cowards," he rasped. Bishop's expression darkened. The wiry officer's hand hovered near his holster, panic rising. Malik clocked the decision forming. This was about to turn lethal. Bishop lunged, baton slicing low for Malik's legs. Malik shifted, rode the strike, and drove his shoulder into Bishop's chest. Bishop stumbled, recovered. Malik dropped Denton with a knee to the gut and a forearm, pinning him down. Grady yanked Malik's collar to throw him off balance. Malik hooked a leg and dumped him hard. Bishop smashed Malik's shoulder again, lightning through bone. Malik turned with the hit and surged toward the wiry officer before it escalated. Malik twisted the man's wrist and shoved him into the cruiser, keeping the weapon away from his hands, no traps. Grady, wild-eyed, reached for his own gun anyway. Malik moved first, driving a precise strike into Grady's throat. Grady collapsed, choking, breaths tearing like broken glass. The street went still. Eyes widened. Bishop's face hardened into something final. "You're done," he said. Malik felt it. This wasn't arrest anymore. This was a cleanup, and he was the mess. Someone shouted into a radio for backup, medics a story. Malik's ribs burned. His side throbbed where a cut had opened. He turned and ran. Gunshots cracked behind him. Something hot grazed his flank, but he kept moving, refusing the ground. Malik ducked into an alley, breath ragged, blood sticky under his shirt. Sirens began to wail. Lights flicked on up and down the block, neighbors waking to violence they'd learned to ignore. Malik pressed into shadow, mind racing through exits and angles. He watched the street from behind a dumpster. Squad cars sat half open, engines running, officers scattered in the chaos. One cruiser idled closer than the rest, driver's seat empty. Malik forced his legs forward, every step a negotiation with pain. He slipped into the cruiser and shut the door softly. The radio chattered about an armed suspect. Malik swallowed blood and focused. Keys were still there. He started the engine and eased out, using the car's authority as camouflage through back streets. Shots pinged behind him, spiderwebbing the rear glass, but Malik didn't slow. He let panic widen while he cut toward quieter roads. He wasn't trying to win a chase, only to stay alive long enough to prove the truth. In the back seat, half hidden beneath gear, Malik spotted a department-issued secure phone left behind in the rush. He grabbed it with careful hands, feeling its weight like evidence. Whatever was on it could be poison, or the lever to topple them. Malik drove toward the industrial waterfront, where warehouses and containers made a maze. He ditched the cruiser in a dead pocket between buildings, far from cameras. His breathing shook. Then he powered the phone on and began searching for what they feared. He didn't need tricks. He needed patience. The device offered conversations, coded in cold. Names surfaced, bishops included. Malik's stomach tightened as he read about shipments, fast-tracked permits, and cleaning blocks. This wasn't petty graft. It was organized extraction. The messages mapped a system. Gun sales, seized cash disappearing, raids aimed at specific family businesses. Malik saw patterns targeting Black and Latino owners, pressure, fines, arrests, and forced sales. The same buyers waited every time, like sharks smelling blood. Deeper folders held photos of marked streets, maps with red X's, and spreadsheets of property values before and after. Malik exhaled slowly, remembering foreign regimes using fear to empty neighborhoods. This was the same playbook, just with better suits and city logos. A recurring handle appeared, RKR. Not a cop, not a street crew. A mid-50s shadow buyer ordering heat kept low and prices high. Malik's jaw tightened. These officers weren't the top. They were muscle for someone richer, quieter, and well-connected. Sirens still hunted in the distance. Malik pocketed the phone and forced himself upright. Pain pulsed with every breath, but clarity burned hotter. He couldn't simply vanish. He had to expose them. Surviving was step one. Ending the machine was step two. Malik contacted one man he trusted to hate corruption over comfort, Detective Marcus Reade, 52. When Reade arrived, he looked worn, creases carved by years of losing battles. Malik tossed him the phone. "Reade," he said, "then decide what kind of cop you are." Reade scrolled, face draining. "This is real," he murmured, "not a question." Malik nodded. "Real enough to get me killed." Reade exhaled, then made a call to someone outside the department. Malik didn't ask who. He just got in the car. They met under dim lights near the river. A black SUV waited. FBI Special Agent Harper Vaughn, 39, stepped out, eyes like steel. She'd chased Bishop's unit for years, watching cases evaporate. Now she took the phone and read. Slow, ruthless, precise. Vaughn looked up. "This is good," she said, "but it's not enough." Malik bristled, then forced calm. Vaughn explained they needed direct proof tying RKR to money trails, contracts, and intent, evidence that survived courtrooms, not just outrage. Reade mentioned a woman who kept records when the system tried to bury her. Maya Barnes, 40, owner of a diner on the east side. She'd been one of the first targeted. Malik felt cold settle in his chest. He'd eaten there. Vaughn's voice tightened. Maya lost her diner 3 months ago. Inspections, fines, arrests, harassment. When she protested, they labeled her disruptive. 2 weeks after she folded, Ridgewell Development bought the property for pennies. Same story, different storefronts. Maya kept receipts, bank statements, notices, emails, and statements from other owners. Vaughn believed one file could connect forced sales to RKR's shell companies. Malik stared into the night and nodded. This wasn't only his store, it was a city being erased. With Maya's files, the pattern snapped sharp. Bishop's crew squeezed owners until they bled, then handed land to investors waiting in the dark. Malik had fought men like RKR overseas, leaders who never held the knife, only pointed where it should land. Malik's pain faded behind purpose. He studied schedules like hostile terrain, but kept it clean. No shortcuts, no fantasies. They needed proof, not bodies. On the outskirts sat a warehouse tied to the flow of money and contraband, pulsing like a heart. Night wrapped the industrial district in oil-scented air. Malik moved carefully, listening. Voices inside the warehouse traded lines about deliveries, cash, and keeping it off redevelopment books. Malik's pulse hammered. City funds, meant to rebuild, were being used as cover. He edged closer, memorizing phrases, faces, and vehicle plates from a safe distance. He wasn't there to play soldier. He was there to witness. Every word was a brick. Every detail could become a wall in court, strong enough to hold. Inside, men joked about permits and cleansing blocks, like displacement was hygiene. Malik's hands curled, then unclenched. Rage could ruin evidence. He focused on time, rotes, and who spoke with authority. The leader wasn't present, but the operation carried his signature. Malik slipped back into shadow, fighting dizziness. He thought of Mrs. Wilkins squeezing past those uniforms, of businesses hollowed out by inspections. This wasn't random cruelty. It was a machine, and machines only stop when you break their gears. He returned to Vaughn and Reade with what he'd learned, enough to tighten their net, not enough to risk lives. Vaughn began building warrants, subpoenas, and a timeline. Malik listened, jaw set. The battlefield had changed, but strategy still mattered. Vaughn warned him. Bishop would escalate. They'd paint Malik as violent, unstable, dangerous. Malik understood. He'd already felt the smear forming in dispatch chatter and whispered gossip. Truth didn't win by being louder. It won by being undeniable. Malik agreed to stay visible only when it helped, hidden when it didn't. Reade arranged safe contacts, witnesses, and quiet protection for Maya. She was frightened, but fierce, done swallowing injustice. Her paperwork became ammunition, and she held it like a torch. Malik reviewed Maya's files, dates, amounts, signatures, shell company names repeating again and again. One transfer trail ran through a Ridgewell aide, then into an account tied to RKR's initials. Vaughn's eyes narrowed. "That's the thread," she said. They moved quickly, sealing evidence, duplicating records, locking down chain of custody. Malik watched Vaughn's precision and felt a strange relief. Professionalism still existed. Somewhere inside the department, honest people would finally have room to breathe. But Bishop's unit wouldn't wait. They'd already tried framing Malik. Next would come self-defense, resisting, weapon recovered. Malik anticipated the play. He changed routines, stayed near cameras, and never carried anything that could be twisted into a headline. In the days that followed, whispers spread that Malik was a menace. Some neighbors believed it. Others pretended not to hear. Malik didn't blame them. Fear was a language the town had been taught. He kept moving, letting discipline outrun exhaustion. Under Vaughn's direction, eyes tightened on Bishop's circle. Money trails lit up. Phone records matched raids. Property deeds aligned with anonymous tips. Malik watched the puzzle assemble. Each piece clicked, closing the cage around men who thought they held keys. Malik met Reade again at dusk, ribs still aching. "They'll come," Malik said. Reade nodded. "Let them." Vaughn wanted Bishop caught on record. Threats, bribes, admissions. The goal wasn't a street fight. It was a courtroom hammer blow. That night, Malik reopened Cross Spirits under bright lights and cameras. He swept the floor slowly, deliberately, like a man refusing to be chased out. Customers trickled in, cautious. Malik smiled anyway. Small. Steady, a signal that fear didn't own the room. Close to midnight, Bishop's cruiser rolled past. Slow. Malik didn't look away. He could feel eyes through tinted glass testing him. Vaughn's team watched from a distance, recording. Malik's heartbeat stayed even. He'd faced worse than intimidation. The next morning, Vaughn called. Warrants were ready. They could hit financial offices, city permitting, and Bishop's stash sites, simultaneous and clean. Malik exhaled like he'd been holding breath for weeks. The trap was set. The hunters would become the hunted. Reade warned Malik to stay away from the raids. "They'll try to drag you into the story," he said. Malik agreed. His part was survival and truth, not martyrdom. He visited Maya, checked her resolve, and reminded her she wasn't alone anymore. Maya's hand shook as she handed over the last folder, letters from other owners, notarized statements, and a receipt with RKR's shell company on it. Vaughn treated it like gold. "This," she said, "is intent. This is direction. This is motive." Malik looked out at the changing blocks, new condos rising where old murals once lived. He felt grief and fury braided together. "They used uniforms to steal futures," he said. Vaughn nodded. "And we're going to use law to take them back." The raid day arrived under gray skies. Federal agents moved fast and quiet. No swagger, no speeches. Bishop's unit was pulled apart in minutes. Phones seized, hard drives boxed, bank accounts frozen. Malik watched from a distance unseen, letting justice speak without him. Bishop tried to posture, shouting about authority, but cuffs don't care about rank. Grady, pale and furious, avoided cameras. Denton's smirk was gone. Vaughn's team read them rights with calm voices. For once, the system didn't blink. News spread like wildfire. Neighbors gathered, murmuring disbelief. Some cried, some laughed, bitter, relieved. Malik stayed quiet, letting the truth be bigger than his ego. He'd wanted them ended. Now he watched them fall the only way that lasted. Vaughn called Malik in. "We have RKR." The shadow buyer had tried to flee when accounts froze, but the paper trail and recorded calls pinned him. Malik closed his eyes, feeling the weight lift a fraction. The machine's operator was finally exposed. Malik returned to his store that evening. He replaced the shattered bottles, repaired the door, and fixed the flickering light Mrs. Wilkins had teased him about. It glowed steady now. Small proof that broken things could be made right. He didn't pretend everything was healed. The neighborhood still carried scars, and greed still prowled. But people talked openly now. Owners compared notes. Witnesses stepped forward. Fear loosened its grip. Malik's war hadn't been bullets. It had been refusal. In a quiet warehouse conference room, Vaughn laid out the case. Extortion, civil rights violations, fraud, trafficking, conspiracy. Malik listened, the ribs aching, heart steady. The town would learn what had been done in its name, and W.H.T. had profited. Malik walked outside into cold morning air, hearing sirens in the distance for the first time without dread. He wasn't a hero in a movie. He was a man who stayed standing. And because he did, an entire city got to breathe again. The people they targeted weren't just being pushed out. Everything was being siphoned straight into Ridgewell development. Malik lifted the encrypted phone and quietly snapped photos of ledgers on the table. Footsteps approached. Someone heading for the office. Malik melted into shadow as the door swung open. Officer Caleb Mercer, 36, stepped in, scanning tight. His eyes caught the open drawer. For a split second, Mercer saw Malik, then went for his gun like instinct could save him. Malik was already on him. He seized Mercer's wrist before the pistol cleared leather, torqued hard, then drove an elbow into Mercer's jaw. The grip loosened. Malik ripped the weapon free and tossed it aside without touching the trigger. Mercer swung wild. Malik ducked and answered with a brutal knee to the ribs, driving Mercer back into filing cabinets. Papers cascaded. Malik slammed him face first onto the desk, forearm pinning his neck. "Stay down," he growled. Mercer fought, fading fast. Malik yanked a zip tie from Mercer's duty belt, wrenched his arms behind him, and cinched tight. No speeches, just control. His cover was burned now. The quiet phase was over. It was time to go loud. Malik slipped out, weaving between stacked crates. The men at the far end hadn't clocked him yet, until a shout cracked the air. "What the? Who tied up Mercer?" The warehouse energy snapped from casual to hunting in one breath. Malik didn't wait. He shoved a nearby crate. Metal pipes crashed down with a deafening roar. Heads whipped. "Who's there?" Malik closed 3 strides and smashed a fist into the nearest jaw, turning confusion into panic. Another officer lunged. Malik sidestepped and swept his leg. Boots left the ground. Body slammed concrete. Safeties clicked. Malik grabbed a fallen pipe and cracked it into ribs, folding a man sideways. Gunfire erupted. Malik dove behind cover, steady breathing, cold eyes. "Where's Sergeant Bishop?" someone yelled. "On his way." Malik exhaled. Good. He wanted Sergeant Trent Bishop, 48, here to watch his empire burn. The officers tightened formation, thinking tactics meant dominance. They didn't know Malik was building a trap. Malik pulled a compact timed charge. Small, controlled, not meant to kill. He set the dial, slapped it to a gas canister, and crouched behind crates. Boots thundered closer. Malik counted steps, angles, lines of sight, like he'd done 1,000 times. When silhouettes slid into view, Malik fired. 2 men stumbled as weapons clattered. He rolled, shoved another crate into their path, forcing a stumble and trip chain. Then the charge popped, an explosion of heat and smoke, shaking steel without turning it into a morgue. Smoke flooded the warehouse. Malik moved through the haze like a rumor. Fast hands, hard strikes, no wasted motion. He dropped anyone between him and the office corridor, then vanished behind toppled pallets as coughing men shouted orders nobody could follow. Malik sprinted back toward the office, ears ringing, ribs screaming. The door hung ajar, swaying from the blast. Inside, paperwork scattered, some edges singed. Malik's eyes searched for one thing: proof tying Walter RKR directly to the machine. His fingers found a thick leather ledger, worn, heavy, meticulous. Transactions, property seizures, bribe totals, forced evictions, every dirty turn of the gears. And at the bottom of each page, again and again, the same signature, Walter RKR. Malik's breath hitched. This was the spine of the case. Then the doorway shadow shifted. They'd found him. A man charged in, gun raised. Malik hurled a stapler, smacked the wrist, aim jerking, bullet-biting drywall instead of Malik's heart. Malik closed distance, twisted the gun arm, stripped the weapon, then chopped the attacker's throat, enough to steal air, not life. Another figure filled the doorway. Malik surged, using the first man as a moving shield, as gunfire snapped, thuds landing into flesh, not Malik. Malik shoved the human cover aside and met the second attacker head-on. A rifle butt swung. Malik ducked, drove a knee into the gut, then an elbow into the jaw. The officer dropped unconscious before gravity finished the job. More footsteps, more incoming. Malik jammed the ledger into his jacket and bolted. Outside the office, the warehouse had become a battlefield. Collapsed crates, scattered men, smoke drifting like storm fog. Some fired blindly. Others yelled to flank exits. Malik moved low, hunting the gap. A burst of gunfire forced Malik behind stacked crates. He counted at least 5 armed men sweeping wide. They weren't containing him anymore. They were trying to erase him. Malik's gaze snapped to a leaking fuel drum. Fire licking spilled liquid nearby. Malik fired one clean shot into the fuel. Flame roared up, bathing steel in orange heat. Officers staggered back, disoriented. Malik surged through the opening, sprinting for the nearest exit. A bullet tore past his arm. Pain flashed, but he kept moving. A baton swinger rushed him. Malik sidestepped, caught the arm mid-swing, and torqued until a sick pop announced a dislocated shoulder. The man screamed and folded. Malik rounded the corner toward an emergency door, almost free. Then a figure stepped into his path. It was Bishop's lieutenant, Lieutenant Darius Kincaid, 44, broad-shouldered, street muscle in uniform. No gun, no hesitation. He'd been waiting for a real fight. Malik's body shifted into posture, breath controlled, eyes flat. Kincaid grinned. "You caused problems tonight." Malik didn't answer. Kincaid lunged with a heavy right hook. Malik slipped it and drove a fist into ribs, deep and punishing. Kincaid swung again, targeting Malik's injured side. Pain flared. Malik answered with a palm strike to the throat, stealing balance. Malik pressed advantage, knee to the stomach, then grabbed Kincaid's head and smashed it into the steel doorframe. The lieutenant went limp. Malik didn't admire the work. He shoved through the exit into night, gunfire cracking behind him like angry thunder. Malik darted down an alley, weaving between dumpsters and abandoned cars. His vehicle was 3 blocks away. Pursuit echoed close. Boots, barking orders, radios. Malik clenched the ledger inside his jacket like a heartbeat. He'd gotten what he came for. Now he had to live. Minutes later, Malik dropped into the passenger seat of an unmarked car parked in a dim alley miles away. His body ached. His grazed side throbbed. Detective Marcus Reade, 52, drove silent, then opened the ledger under dashboard glow. Reade flipped pages, transaction after transaction, face tightening as truth piled up. Malik watched the exact moment it hit him. Reade exhaled hard. "This is worse than I thought," he muttered. "We knew RKR was involved, but this is a system." Malik leaned back, eyes on empty streets. "That's why it worked," he said. It looked like random failures, loans, arrests, fines, until you see the pattern. Reade shook his head, pages trembling slightly. He's flipping neighborhoods, building towers on bones. Reade asked the question everyone asks when the monster looks too big. How do you fight this? Malik tapped the ledger. Hit where they can't recover. Give it to the right hands. Let the feds rip through finances. Nobody survives forensic money. Reade nodded, jaw set, already dialing. Agent Harper Vaughn, 39, has been circling Bishop for years, he said. If she gets this ledger, it becomes official. No more internal berry jobs. Malik stared out the window. Then move fast. They'll counterpunch. Reade spoke into the phone in clipped urgency. When he hung up, his eyes were hard. They're mobilizing, he said. First hit will be Ridgewell Tower, RKR's office, before sunrise. Malik exhaled. The first real blow was about to land. Just before dawn, black SUVs slid up to Ridgewell Tower. Federal agents stepped out in practiced silence, sealing the perimeter like a tightening fist. Inside, security barely blinked before radios crackled and compliance replaced courage. A warrant was a different kind of weapon. A lead agent, Special Agent Nolan Pierce, 42, flashed his badge at the receptionist. This office is under federal jurisdiction, he said. Executives froze in corridors. Assistants whispered into phones. Pierce cut it off. Nobody leaves. Stay where you are. Teams split. Some for servers, some for records, some for finance. Elevators locked, doors guarded. Panic tried to bloom, but agents moved too clean. On the 15th floor, a storage room sat locked behind electronic security. Pierce nodded to a tech specialist. Open it. Tech specialist. Tessa Park, 33, bypassed the system in minutes. The door clicked open. Inside, filing cabinets stuffed with reports, wire receipts, internal emails, skeletons neatly labeled. Agents pulled drawers, scanning signatures, tracing shell companies, connecting bribes to properties seized through legal's pressure. One agent whistled low. This isn't just fraud, he said. This is racketeering. Boxes filled with evidence. Drives were cloned. Paper trails lined tables like a map to hell. Malik watched from across the street, hood up, blending into commuters who didn't yet know history was shifting. Malik's instinct screamed anyway. Too smooth, too easy. Walter RKR was careful. Reade stepped beside him, hands in pockets. It worked, Reade murmured. Malik didn't celebrate. He watched agent movement, vehicle placement, exits, listening to the silence between actions. RKR's always ready for contingencies, Malik said. If we're close enough to expose them, Bishop's crew knows that we're coming. Reade frowned, then his phone buzzed. His expression changed. He showed Malik the message. Bishop's unit is off-grid. No radio. Moving. Malik's jaw tightened. He's not hiding, Malik said. He's cleaning house. Reade swallowed. The raid was strike one, but Bishop's counterstrike was already loading. Malik turned away from the tower, eyes scanning the city like it was a battlefield again. Back at the safe house, tension hung thick. Vaughn's raid had succeeded, but Bishop had gone quiet, controlled quiet. No frantic cover-ups, no sloppy panic. That was what scared Malik. Quiet meant planning. Quiet meant someone else was about to bleed. Reade's phone buzzed again. He glanced down, brows knitting. It's Maya Barnes, 40, he said. Maya had been lying low, helping Vaughn tighten the case. A call now, in the middle of chaos, meant one thing. The machine was striking back. Reade put it on speaker. Maya's voice was tight, shaking. Reade, I need help. Malik's stomach dropped. Reade asked where she was. Maya sucked a breath, static cut in. Then she whispered, "They grabbed me. I think it's—" A deep voice swallowed her words. "Bishop." Calm, smiling through the line. "I wondered how long it'd take you to answer, Cross." Malik's fingers tightened. Bishop's voice carried confidence like a badge. "You've been a thorn. Let's settle it. Come alone. Or I send her back in pieces." Malik didn't argue, didn't bargain. "Send the location," he said, voice level. Bishop chuckled, satisfied, and the call died. Reade exhaled sharply. "It's a setup." Malik slid his holster on anyway. "Of course it is," he said, "but she doesn't have time." Reade urged calling Vaughn, bringing backup. Malik shook his head. "No time. Bishop will move." Reade insisted on coming. Malik paused, then spoke quiet and heavy. "Stay alive, Reade. If I don't return, someone has to finish the war." The pin Bishop sent was an abandoned train yard. Rusting boxcars, no lights, no civilians. Perfect kill zone. Malik parked a block away and went on foot, moving low through shadow. Every muscle coiled. He spotted motion near a boxcar. Bishop waiting like he owned darkness. Maya knelt beside Bishop, hands tied, gagged, eyes wide but furious. Two armed men flanked her at angles designed to punish rescue attempts. Malik stepped out just enough for Bishop to see. Bishop tilted his head. "You came alone," he mused. Malik's stare didn't blink. "Let her go." Bishop smiled like a man savoring control. He nodded to his men. One yanked Maya up, and Malik saw the micro-shift, the execution posture. Malik drew and fired, clean, striking shoulder, spinning the man away. Malik crossed distance fast and dropped the second guard with a throat strike and a snapped arm. Maya hit the gravel hard, coughing behind the gag. Bishop moved, knife flashed. Malik twisted, feeling the blade graze ribs instead of burying deep. Malik seized Bishop's wrist, torqued, and drove a knee into Bishop's side. Bishop grunted, faster than expected, and answered with an elbow to Malik's head. Malik stumbled. Reset, eyes refocusing. Bishop smiled through blood. "Slowing down, old man," he taunted. Malik's lips curled barely. "You talk too much." They collided again, Bishop lunging, Malik anticipating. Malik slammed forearm into the knife hand. The blade clattered to dirt. Bishop didn't pause. He struck ribs hard, forcing pain through Malik's injuries. Malik retaliated with a kick to Bishop's knee, throwing him off balance. Malik tackled him. They hit gravel, rolling, fighting for leverage. Malik pinned Bishop's wrist as Bishop reached for a hidden blade. Malik headbutted Bishop, sharp crack, blood streaming from Bishop's nose. Malik wrenched Bishop's arm behind him, knee and spine. "Game's over," Malik said. Maya had freed her hands, eyes locked on them. Bishop chuckled through pain. "You think this ends with me?" Bishop surged with refusal, elbowing Malik's ribs. Malik held on, but grip loosened enough for Bishop to wrench free and flip positions with brutal precision. Malik hit his back. Bishop climbed on top and hammered punches aimed to break bone. Malik absorbed, waited for timing, then bridged and rolled them. Now Malik straddled Bishop's chest, elbow driving into sternum. Bishop clawed at Malik's face, hunting weakness. Malik caught the wrist and twisted to control. Forearm pressed Bishop's throat. Warning pressure. Bishop still smiled, blood dripping. "You think you won? You don't know what's coming?" Malik's eyes caught movement. One of Bishop's men, barely conscious, raising a gun. Malik rolled off Bishop as a shot snapped past where his head had been. Malik kicked the gun away and stomped the shooter's wrist. Bone popped. The man screamed. Malik turned. Bishop was back on his feet. Bishop drove a steel-toed boot into Malik's stomach. Malik staggered into a freight car wall, breath knocked thin. Something inside felt wrong. Shifted. Bishop charged again. Malik ducked, dodged, and palm-struck Bishop's nose. Cartilage cracked loud. Bishop barely flinched, rage powering him. Bishop caught Malik's arm, spun him, and slammed Payne into Malik's shoulder. Knife buried deep and twisted. Malik snarled, refused collapse. He seized Bishop's wrist, yanked the blade free, then smashed his forehead into Bishop's skull. Both men staggered, blood falling like rain in dark. Malik glanced. Maya had a phone calling for help, voice urgent. Good! Malik snapped back to Bishop in time for another rush. Malik slipped the punch, captured the arm, locked the elbow, and drove knees into Bishop's gut. 1, 2, then shoved him into a rusted train car. Bishop sagged for a breath. That was all Malik needed. Malik pinned him by the collar against metal, breath heavy, body screaming. This ends now, Malik said low. Bishop coughed, smiling weak. Sirens began to echo in the distance, closing fast. Maya's voice cut through. Malik, they're coming! Malik didn't look away from Bishop. He trusted Maya, not Bishop. Bishop's eyes flickered, calculating escape. Malik tightened his hold. This wasn't about winning a fistfight anymore. It was about delivering a criminal intact. Lights crested the yard, red and blue washing over steel. Malik nodded toward the glow. Hear that? He murmured. That's everything you built collapsing. Bishop wheezed a laugh. You think this changes anything? RKR might fall, but you don't know who's above him. Malik slammed Bishop back against the boxcar. Clang echoed. Maybe, Malik admitted, but you're not walking away. Bishop smirked, testing Malik's hold, then hissed, You always played hero. That's why you're gonna die here. Malik's eyes stayed cold. Neither do you. Bishop moved, fast, knee into Malik's wounded side. White-hot pain flashed. Malik's grip faltered. Bishop shoved Malik back, swinging. Malik ducked, then drove a fist into Bishop's ribs. Bishop answered with a hook to Malik's jaw. Malik absorbed, then elbowed Bishop's face. Blood sprayed. They were running on fumes, strategy replaced by instinct, survival, and stubborn refusal. Bishop lunged low. Malik sidestepped, caught the arm, and threw Bishop over his shoulder. Bishop slammed gravel hard. Malik dropped on him instantly, knee pinning, wrist secured. Bishop gasped, strength finally draining. Malik hovered, breathing hard. You should have stayed down, Malik muttered. Bishop coughed a thin laugh. Locking me up won't fix it. You think I don't have contingency plans? Malik didn't loosen. I don't care. It's over. Tactical units flooded the yard with precision. No swagger, just control. Weapons up, angles covered, exits sealed. Maya backed away with hands raised, relief shaking through her. A lead agent shouted, Step away from him, now! Malik lifted his hands and stepped back slowly. Agents yanked Bishop up, arms twisted behind him, cuffs biting tight. Bishop didn't resist. He just looked defeated, but not humbled. An agent shoved him toward an SUV. Subject in custody, a voice barked into radio. We have Sergeant Trent Bishop in custody. Repeat, custody. Malik watched the words land like a hammer. For years, Bishop had been insulated by paperwork and fear. Now he was just another criminal in cuffs. Bishop turned his head toward Malik with a crooked smile. You really think you changed anything? He rasped. Malik didn't answer at first. He let silence do the work. Bishop kept talking anyway, like men do when control slips. There's always another, he said. Cut off one head, another grows. Malik stepped closer, voice low. Then I'll keep cutting. Bishop laughed, a rasp full of spite. Predictable, he said. Malik leaned in just enough. You're spending the rest of your life behind bars. And when the next one steps up, I'll put him there too. Bishop's smirk twitched. Then Agent shoved him into the SUV. The door slammed. The sound wasn't dramatic. It was final. Maya moved to Malik, eyes scanning his blood. Are you okay? Malik rolled his shoulder, wincing. I've been worse. Maya narrowed her eyes. That's not an answer. Malik gave a tired half smile. It'll do. Maya watched the convoy pull out. Think he's right. More coming? Malik stared at the yard, flashing lights painting rust. There's always more, he admitted, but tonight was a first step. Maya nodded, breathing like someone learning to stand up again. Hours later, Malik sat in a cold interrogation room, hands on a metal table. A man in a crisp suit entered. Assistant U.S. Attorney Damon Carlisle, 45, the kind of polished face that knew how to bury stories. He studied Malik like a problem to manage. Carlisle tapped his sheet of paper. You should be facing serious charges, he said smoothly. Assaulting officers, weapons violations, property damage. He slid the paper forward. But I have an offer. Malik didn't touch it. Carlisle smiled thin. Testify against Bishop and his men. This goes away. Malik stared at him, unmoved. Carlisle leaned in. No charges. No prison. You walk free. Malik exhaled. He understood the game. Sacrifice the visible monsters. Protect the higher ones. Bishop was already caged, but the investors, officials, and fixers wanted to keep breathing clean air. Malik finally spoke. And the people above them? Carlisle spread his hands like regret was policy. We take what we can get. Bishop off the board is a win. Malik's jaw tightened. What about Walter, RKR, the officials who enabled this? Carlisle's smile sharpened. RKR will fight. Others are complicated. Malik laughed once, quiet, humorless. So they survive. Carlisle nodded. That's how it goes. Malik picked up the document, scanned the immunity language, then folded it. Once, twice, slow, deliberate. Carlisle's eyes narrowed. Malik tore it clean down the middle and dropped it. Carlisle's expression flickered for the first time. That's a mistake. Malik met his gaze. Not from where I'm sitting. Carlisle stood, smoothing his suit. If you go public, you'll make powerful enemies. Malik rose too, wincing through pain. I already have. Carlisle paused at the door. Don't say I didn't warn you. He left. The door clicked shut. Malik pulled out his phone. He didn't leak rumors. He dumped structure, ledger entries, falsified reports, money trails, emails. He fed truth to the press like gasoline to fire. Within an hour, whispers hit journalists. By morning, it snowballed. Full investigative pieces, documents on screen, bank statements highlighted, audio snippets of conversations. Names previously protected by silence started trending in headlines. The machine couldn't swallow it fast enough. City officials scrambled. Denials, resignations, emergency press conferences. Developers issued sterile statements about cooperation. The department promised internal review. But federal subpoenas don't care about public relations. Malik had forced the truth into daylight, where it burned everything it touched. In a diner booth, Maya watched the news roll like a storm. Her coffee went cold. She looked across at Malik. You really don't know how to lay low. Malik sipped calmly, eyes on the TV banner. Corruption scandal widens. Tried laying low once, he murmured. Didn't fit. Maya leaned forward, serious. They'll come after you. Malik nodded. I know. She shook her head. You could have walked away, taken Carlisle's deal, disappeared. Malik's gaze held steady. That's what they counted on. Maya's lips twitched. You don't know when to quit. Malik smirked faint. Guess not. Outside, the city woke different, like people finally saw the strings. For the first time in years, neighbors spoke aloud about raids, anonymous tips, and the same buyers appearing like clockwork. Fear loosened just a notch, but enough. The fallout hit hard. Bishop's unit collapsed under federal pressure, charges stacking, civil rights violations, trafficking, conspiracy, extortion. Officers flipped on each other. Body cam gaps became evidence themselves. The department's old reflex, protect the badge, couldn't outrun federal oversight. Bishop received a federal life sentence. His loyal crew took decades. Cooperators got deals, but no one kept a badge. The public watched sentencing like a collective exhale. Men who'd strutted through storefronts now stood in orange jumpsuits, small, human, and finally answerable. Walter RKR fell next. The ledger tied him to forced seizures, shell company funnels, and racketeering. His empire cracked under forensic accounting. Assets froze, properties seized. When the conviction landed, 30 years, the court didn't just punish a man, it punctured a myth. Politicians and city insiders weren't spared. Some resigned early, hoping to vanish quietly. Public outrage dragged them back into view. Indictments followed, careers erased. The system tried to protect its own, but exposure changed the math. Sunlight made the cost too high. The police department underwent an overhaul. New leadership, federal monitors, terminations, reassignments. Community boards formed with real teeth. People didn't trust overnight, but they watched, documented, demanded. The streets felt lighter, not safe because power was kind, but because power was observed. Malik reopened Cross Spirits not for money, but for meaning. The store wasn't just shelves and receipts. It was proof he hadn't been pushed out. He replaced glass, repainted scuffs, and hung a fresh sign. Neighbors showed up, not for liquor, but for what it represented. Businesses that had been crushed began reopening under new protections. Families returned to homes they'd nearly lost. Developers still circled, but the community had receipts now, legal, public, undeniable. Malik never gave speeches. He just stood behind the counter and kept the doors open. Maya leaned on the counter, watching Malik restock. So much for leaving it behind, she teased. Malik shrugged. Figured I'd stick around. Maya rolled her eyes. People are telling stories. Some think you vanished hunting bad guys. Malik didn't look up. Legends grow when the truth scares people. Maya smirked. You're not a legend, Malik. You're just stubborn. Malik finally met her eyes with a tired grin. Same thing. The store hummed with life again. The war wasn't finished forever, but tonight, the neighborhood could breathe. Untouchable power is real until someone makes it visible. If you're 65 or older, you've lived long enough to know a hard truth. The most dangerous corruption isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the complaint that gets lost, the inspection that just happens, the case that dies before breakfast. In Malik Cross's town, the badge had become a shield for the very people it was meant to restrain. And when Bishop and his crew walked into Cross Spirits like they owned the air, that wasn't policing. It was ownership. They weren't asking for cooperation. They were selling survival. What changed wasn't a miracle. It was visibility. Malik didn't win because he could fight. He won because he understood something older Americans have seen across decades. Wrongdoing survives in the dark, but it struggles under direct light. The moment Malik refused the protection tax, he forced the machine to show its teeth, first with vandalism, then with a planted bag, then with a staged search. That's how these systems operate. Intimidation dressed up as procedure. The lesson is simple and it's sobering. If you want corruption to shrink, you have to document it until it can't hide. Not rumors, not anger, proof. Courage without discipline becomes a trap. But discipline builds a case. Many of us grew up believing courage meant standing your ground. And sometimes it does. But Malik's story reminds us that courage without discipline can get you killed, or worse, turned into their story. They tried to paint him as unstable, violent, the problem. That's an old tactic, and plenty of good people have been buried by it. Malik survived because he fought a different war, the war of timing, restraint, and evidence. He didn't chase revenge. He chased chain of custody. He watched hands, faces, patterns. He knew a courtroom doesn't run on outrage. It runs on what you can prove at 9 a.m. under oath. When he found that department-issued secure phone and later the leather ledger with Walter RKR's signature stamped across page after page, he didn't treat it like gossip. He treated it like a live wire. Handle carefully, duplicate, preserve, deliver to people who can make it official. Older Americans understand this kind of patience. You've waited out storms, illnesses, layoffs, wars. Malik's discipline turned fear into a timeline, and a timeline into warrants. That is how you beat a machine. Not by punching the gears, but by removing the bolts that hold it together. Real change is never one bad officer, it's community refusing to disappear. If you've watched neighborhoods change over 30 or 40 years, you know displacement rarely starts with a moving truck. It starts with pressure, fines, random visits, paperwork, surprise inspections, a phone call that never gets returned. Malik saw what Maya Barnes and other business owners lived. A slow squeeze until the property sells for pennies and a developer cashes the difference. That's not bad luck. That's a system, and systems don't collapse because one man is brave. They collapse when people stop being isolated. Malik's refusal mattered, but so did Maya's receipts, Reade's decision to choose integrity over comfort, and Vaughn's insistence on evidence that could survive court. When federal agents moved in, they didn't come with speeches. They came with subpoenas, bank freezes, server clones, and records pulled clean. The lesson for all of us, especially those thinking about children and grandchildren, is this. Your voice may feel small, but your paper trail is powerful. Communities breathe again when people compare notes, speak plainly, and keep records like their future depends on it, because it does. After hearing Malik's story, I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever seen power abuse itself at work, in a neighborhood, or even inside a local system, and felt pressured to stay quiet? What do you believe actually creates change? Confronting it head-on, documenting it carefully, or building a community that won't be isolated anymore? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read them and I respond. If this story gave you something to think about, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode, because the lessons that protect our families are worth passing on.